All right, there it is. This is the last recap that I'm gonna do. I basically of the Bass Pro Tour for this week, Lake Eufaula. I have a guest here today. Hopefully my breath doesn't smell too bad.
I wish you quit touching me.
Okay, sorry. This is Cody Prather. Cody's a colleague of mine. We both shoot as professional freelance videographers for the Major League Fishing Bass Pro Tour. Jacob Wheeler won the event, and what a shocker.
Smoked them.
Absolutely smoked them. And
is there anything scarier than seeing Wheeler start climbing up the score tracker?
No, I had a feeling that this was going to happen. I mean, it's not like I'm going out on a limb here to say that this morning I told one of the other camera guys, I'm like, yeah, no, Jacob Wheeler. I also said, to be honest, this is, Ott Defoe has been on a tear. I was with Ott today, so I said it's going to be Brian Thrift. I put it Brian Thrift, Ott Defoe, and I think I said Jacob Wheeler. You know, what isn't that? I
didn't make a prediction because they fished a different water condition every single day this week. 6 days of fishing, and none of them were anywhere close to what they pre-fished. You had water up, you had water dropping, you had clean water in places that turned dirty, you had dirty water in places that turned clean. It's like no one pattern or area held up this entire week.
Yeah, it's been super hard to kind of predict anything. It's been super unstable. The weather conditions have been all over the place. The water temperature's been all over the place. The water clarity, like you're saying, I mean, it's been up and down, fluctuating. So, but what a testament though to Jacob Wheeler that he can manage that.
Oh, he just adjusts to whatever. And I mean, you see it in every angler's face. Anytime you're not in Jacob's boat and he starts going up the score tracker, every angler is just waiting for that moment where he's about to take off and go on a tear, because he does that.
And the interesting thing about him, would you primarily call him a power fisherman? I mean, he can do everything, but would you say he's primarily a power fisherman?
I don't know. I mean, I guess I've seen him power fish a dang drop shot.
Yeah.
I mean, he just boom, 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 boom. He knows what he's looking for. He knows what he needs to do to trigger a bite, and he's not leaving that bait in the water. I've never seen him dead stick anything. I don't know that I've ever seen him fish slow. I've seen him fish slowly with intent, which means, put the presentation in there, knowing it takes 3 hops with that jig before you know you're not getting a bite, and then he won't go any more than that.
Have you? I've shot a ton with Van Dam through the years. Right out of college, I worked for Bass Pro Shops, and I did retail videos with Kevin. I've worked a ton with Kevin when Kevin was in his prime, and I got to tell you, Jacob Wheeler Kevin is Kevin, right? Jacob Wheeler. It's Jacob Wheeler's something. He's maybe this is saying something. He may, when his career is done and over, it may show that he's the greatest bass fisherman that has ever lived.
He fishes a lot like Kevin. Kevin fishes, quickly with intent. Even when he's fishing slow, he's fishing slowly with intent. Every cast counts. Every presentation, every time he puts a bait in a place, he's expecting to get a bite, and he's working to trigger those fish. And I see Jacob fishing very similar, and it's not something that I've seen a lot of anglers, do with every single cast, expecting to get bit.
Yeah, you see, what I've always said about Kevin's success, I really attribute a lot of it to he's so efficient. He knows it's a mathematical equation. The more presentations you make in a day, the better chances you are, a bass biting, your offering. But he also is incredibly good at triggering fish. He knows how to trigger fish. That's why he's so good with a crankbait. He's so good with a spinnerbait. Those are baits that you can work, a jerkbait, of course. Jerkbait is phenomenal for that. Jacob Wheeler's very similar in that regard.
And Jacob's not scared to just try something off the wall. Like today, what he found, I don't know exactly what he was doing. I didn't watch the live feed.
Who were you with
I was
today?
with Dalton Jones Jr. today, And we ended our day fishing some docks and watching. I mean, as we're pulling up and there's 20 boats sitting out in the middle of the lake, we're like, well, we know where Wheeler is, and you see him out there and he looks like he's in no man's land, and nobody has been fishing that area because I've been in that area 3 or 4 days out of the week, and I've never seen anybody out there in that area, which tells me that that's something that Jacob found pre-fishing and just liked it and wasn't able to fish it because it was blown out, or he just went completely off the cuff and went and did something different. Y'all probably know more about that than we do because you actually got to watch the whole thing unfold.
Yeah, I was with Randall Tharp 2 days ago. I lose track of time doing these, but and we were, Randall and Jacob were down by the dam. And to me, that made a lot of sense, particularly in the beginning of the tournament. Mm-hmm. When the water coming out of the river was the upper part of the reservoir was so muddy, these guys went down, found cleaner water by the dam. That's a great, most people know that now, I mean, that's kind of common bass fishing knowledge. But they were down there, and by that cleaner water, Randall Tharp cleaned up, and obviously Jacob Wheeler made it to the championship round and did as well. And he was fishing the same area that I saw him fishing when I was in the boat filming Randall Tharp. So impressive. I think he went on that tear with a spinnerbait. When he started going, I don't know that he was fishing a spinnerbait the whole time, but when he was on that tear, we have headphones in and we can hear the control room. And when we're out on the water, they direct us, but we can also hear how the show's going. We hear the live show. And so I heard that he was catching them on a spinnerbait. So I was with Ott Defo today. I was with him yesterday as well. He was doing the same thing he was doing yesterday. He was throwing a crankbait. He didn't have any. It was kind of interesting. He was complaining that he didn't have deep enough diving crankbaits, so he's fishing they're kind of mid-range crankbaits. He was using a DT10 and shallower. I think he was also throwing a DT6. Also a homemade, looked like he was throwing a homemade flat-sided crankbait. I said crankbait, right? It was a crankbait is what he was throwing. When I said jerkbait, it's been a long day. But so tell me about your day.
Alton Jr., wow, what an impressive young man. Alton is just a pleasure to be in the boat with. Right. I mean, he keeps a good attitude. I mean, I don't think he caught a fish the whole first period. I can't remember exactly when that first fish came, but I want to say, no, I know he didn't catch one in the first period. Because we sat down and we talked about it. Second period came around, and I can't remember when it was. I want to say it was towards the end of the second period before he got his first bite. And he had a great attitude all the way through. You see a lot of people get spun out, and a lot of people, the pressure really gets on them, especially in the championship round. And Junior just, stayed cool and calm, and, we were chatting and having a good time in the boat. Live's not coming to us because we're not doing anything. So we had plenty of time to talk and just have a good time. But, he always stayed focused, and he always stayed intent with his fishing and was always trying to figure it out. And when he got that first bite, then that's all it really took to clue him in on something completely different.
And what was he doing?
Well, the first period he was doing anything and everything that he could think of. He was fishing a lot of grass, trying to fish real shallow. Started out in some dirty water, went back to some cleaner water, went into some super clean water. Actually tied on a frog and a booyah. I can't remember, pad crasher.
Yeah, their frog.
Yeah, but he also had one that's kind of like the Techler frog. It's got the paddle tail on the back, and he was throwing that, and he started catching some small fish. Okay. But it just seemed to me like he was way too shallow. The fish hadn't moved up there yet, and once he got out into some, he beat that up pretty good. Actually had a big fish miss his frog, and he got a hook in her. But, the back came out of the water. We saw it. It was, every bit of 4 pounds plus. I mean, who knows? Could have been 6 or 7. You just see that little flash of a fish and it's big.
Yeah, there's a lot of big fish in this fishery.
So that didn't make it. That's all part of the story of stuff that doesn't make it on. But that almost messed him up because you get a good bite in a place like that and you think, okay, maybe I can run with this. And he burned up another 30 minutes, 45 minutes doing that before he pulled up on a dock, which is actually a good magic dock because it's the same dock that I was with Scott Suggs when he made it out of his elimination round in his last minute heroics to make the cut line or elimination line and make it into the knockout round. Scott pulled up on this dock, and I want to say he caught 3 fish in like 10 minutes.
Wow.
And there was like 10 minutes left in the round, and he made a big jump and secured his place in the knockout round. And Alton pulled up to that same dock and caught 3 fish.
No kidding.
Between a series of docks there, and it just changed his whole game plan.
And that's I would say the exciting part of this format, the Major League Fishing format, is that, you know, when you have 5 fish, and you might be able to articulate this better, but when you have 5 fish, there's only so many dramatic elements that can happen once you have your 5 fish limit, you know. Dude, no one's kind of never out of it. Although today, Jacob, I mean, he just skyrocketed.
Yeah,
and
that wasn't until late in the third period.
Wasn't until late third period, and really, I was thinking he was irrelevant. You know, and that's why this format is exciting. And I kind of, the naysayers and the poo-pooers, I just wanted, you know, it's like there are tournament formats that you can still watch. Just go watch them. You know, we're going to be doing our thing over here at Major League Fishing, because the sport's never had anything where you're never safe, really. I mean, so Jacob Wheeler was down in the pack, and he worked his tail off. It's just classic Wheeler. He worked his tail off, and he found the mother lode. He can trigger fish very, very well. You know, like Van Dam. You know, like that's what Van Dam. I mean, I'm seeing just like he's Van Dam. He's almost. He's doing Van Dam better than Van Dam.
He is right now.
You know,
I don't disagree with you. I mean, he reminds me of Kevin when he was winning everything that came his way. But I mean, talking about the format, I mean, the same thing happened with Alton Jr. I mean, it wasn't until late in the second period when he started making his run. Third period is when he really started climbing up the leaderboard, and he ended up clawing his way all the way up into 4th place. He was like 24 pounds back and clawed his way up into 4th place and made a really good check. And he's been doing that all week long.
Yeah.
He barely made it into the finals because he knocked me out. I was with Britt Meyer during the knockout round. And, you know, another funny thing, we ended up finishing on the same set of docks that Britt Meyer and Andy Montgomery had been fishing in the knockout round when they both got bumped out, when Alton Jr. caught one of his big fish and jumped everybody to make the cut. And so he came in just at the last minute and then went and fished all this stuff that has just been getting pounded all week. But these fish this time of year, pretty spawn, they're just coming in.
That's the other thing that's really interesting about this fishery, is that there are a lot of different patterns, you know, and they kind of, you know, they all kind of played a role for some of these guys this week, you know. I mean, there's guys catching them out of mats, you know, catching big fish. I mean, they're, you know, off of docks and
Greg
you know,
Vincent with a jerkbait catching a 5
I talked about that last night.
Yeah.
I said, you know, and I heard him talking on the live stream today about what Wheeler was doing, fishing in deeper water, in very muddy water, and catching them. And that's kind of in the textbook. You're not supposed to be able to do that, right? And Greg Vincent with a jerkbait, I saw him, and he was the water clarity that this was up in the upper end of the lake, and he's catching them on a jerkbait. Wow. Now it wasn't chocolate milk, but it wasn't ideal. Like, you would look at that water clarity, and go, no, jerkbait doesn't work here. Yeah. And I made the point last night that, or it might have been 2 nights ago. Dude, I'm telling you, these tournaments get long these days. But you have to kind of ask yourself, why is a jerkbait, why is a suspending jerkbait just thought of as a clear water bait when most suspending jerkbaits have rattles? And why is it okay if you were to throw a jig? And that's, you know, and jigs have rattles, but I guarantee you it's not rattling like a suspending jerkbait.
I agree. And it's not flash. I mean, yeah, you lose some of the flash, but you're still getting the water movement. You're still, I mean, they're still feeding on their lateral lines.
Yeah.
I mean, if they can eat a minnow in that dirty water, they can eat a jerkbait.
Right. And then, I mean, you could think of some really kind of cool retrieves that you can do. I mean, if you know the fish are in an area, you can just you can kind of fish it slow, and and so they can find it and get to it.
Yeah.
And there's probably all kinds of new doors that could be opened with that. See how I'm trying to stay away from you? I'm worried about I'm very cognizant.
I'll stay away from you too.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe for BO reasons.
The biggest thing that I think that we can shed light on that that you don't see necessarily on the live show is just the emotion that these guys go through throughout the day, and their attitude, and how important their attitude is in dictating how the rest of the day goes. How when you don't have a fish going into the second period, or sometimes even the third period, how these guys just never stop, because they know this format. They've been doing this format. They haven't given up. They haven't lost heart.
Right.
I mean, you see super highs, super lows. Like I was with Brett Height when he actually made it in the knockout round. He caught a 3-pounder, and that put him up just below the line. It didn't put him all the way up there, but he was like 2 spots back. And the next cast, he hooked another 3-pounder, and it jumped off right at the boat.
Oh goodness.
And he just turns around and looks at me and goes, "You go from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows in this game."
Absolutely. And then you think about it too, just the amount of work and preparation they put into a tournament.
Yep.
And I feel so bad about, these guys that get eliminated, earlier on in the tournament. And it's like, there's so much preparation, so much, money spent, time spent, and just these guys they love what they do, but it's a ton of work.
Oh yeah.
And then to have to, and then to just be deflated, or like someone knocks them out, and they're under the cut line. You see it all the time, and you feel bad. I mean, you see it just with Wheeler, what he did today, how it just deflates, guys. But a true professional, like Ott, you got to keep grinding, until the very end, especially in this format.
Oh yeah, I mean they're fighting for every place, and you don't ever give up. I mean, they all lose fish,
Yeah.
and it affects them all differently. With Brett Height's situation, after he lost that fish, he just kept on casting. He just turned around and went back to work, kept on fishing, and with less than 10 minutes left in the day, he caught another fish that bumped him over that cut line, and got him into the finals today.
Right on. Well, I'm going to end it. Let's end this with just one thing that kind of stood out for you this week. One thing that was like, I got my thing. You want me to start?
Oh no, you wrap this up. I'm going to start, because I'm going to tell you the one thing that really got me this week is the intensity of Scott Suggs. I love this man. I pull up on his boat. He's in this crystal clear bay. Not crystal clear, but for Eufaula, it's crystal clear. Not a ripple on the water, and and fish pushing shad. It was almost like he was bed fishing. We had to pull up. I had to tiptoe onto the boat. I pull up. I walk up to him. I have to put a mic on you, and he doesn't stop fishing. He just kind of turns like this, and he doesn't take his eyes off of what he's doing. And so I drop the mic down, through it, put on, I tiptoe all the way back to the back. So that's the thing, we have to know exactly how to work on these boats, because you don't want to break an angler's concentration. And he was so focused, there was so much pressure on him. And he never let up, and he never stopped. And it's an intimidating moment. If you haven't been in that moment, it's scary. You think somebody's about to just rip your head off. You feel like there's tension that you could cut with a knife. But when you know what you're looking at, and you see the intensity and the focus in somebody, it's really a beautiful thing to see.
My moment, I was with Ott for 2 days, yesterday and today. And this is kind of a sappy moment, but each period break, he would his wife would call, and he'd talk to his kids, and he'd have them on a speakerphone, or they're actually doing video conference, or whatever you call it. Mm-hmm. And so he would have them there, and Ott is such he's a fantastic father, and he'd talk to his kids, and they're rooting him on, and as Ott's getting ready, and that to me just stood out. I just thought it was really cool, and so.
Yeah. Oh, and I do have one other moment.
Please.
That was when Alton Jr. left his phone in his truck, so he always texts his wife in between the rounds. So I let him use my phone, and and I looked at it afterwards, and I had a text message on there. Well, you can't come home until you catch a fish.
Nice.
Oh, yeah,
Nice.
I laughed. We had a good crack up over that, and then he went to catching fish. I guess he wanted to go home.
This is a very difficult job, but both Cody and I are fishermen, and you know, as hard as it is on our bodies, I think you would agree with this that it's really as fans of the sport, it's really kind of a privilege too. You know, I mean, it's a lot of fun too.
Yeah, no other sport do you have this kind of access for a camera guy,
and this is our sport.
Cool.
This is what we follow, so it's
yeah.
really cool. But yeah, so that's a wrap up. Hopefully we can do this more. I want to do this and this is kind of, I don't know, maybe pie in the sky thinking. I'd like to do this for every Bass Pro Tour, but it's very exhausting. So please appreciate what we're doing here. Subscribe to Angling Uploaded. That's the best way to support us. I want to thank Cody for coming here and would love to have you at the next Bass Pro Tour event.
I don't know, man.
Are you exhausted? Like, I know this is a lot.
No, I just need to bring you breath mints.
Okay, so I'll do that, and we will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Okay.